Okay, so final video of the day as we continue with the Apostles' Creed. Jesus ascended into heaven and sits at the right hand of God the Father. We'll just take one part of that this week. He ascended. In ancient Israel, whenever a king went through the ceremony of being coronated for that regal task of being king over God's people, a part of that ceremony was some form of ascension where they would walk up some stairs or they would be lifted up, and this was a sign that the authority of God was vested in them, that they were reigning in God's place, so to speak. And so when we think about Jesus ascending into heaven, we remember that just after his resurrection, he spent 40 days with about 500 of his closest followers, and then some of them got to watch him rise up and be taken up into the clouds. So let's talk about a couple things about that. First of all, where is heaven? To answer that question, we have to use a bunch of metaphors that are not physically, literally true, but are still get us thinking in the right direction. So one of the ways to think about heaven is it's up, right? It's above us. But we don't literally believe that Jesus kept flying up into the sky and then went right when he got to Mars and then took a left when he got to Pluto and just kept going up in a straight line. He was taken up before them, but so that they would understand some things, including the fact that he had gone to heaven. But heaven is not literally physically above us in a physical kind of way. It is above us in a spiritual way. So if it's not geographically true that heaven's up, it's definitely true spiritually that it's above us. But it's not the only. But that is not the only way the scriptures talk about heaven. So the book of Hebrews speaks of us being surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses, those who have already died, those who have already gone to heaven, and the book of Hebrews says that since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, that we can persevere in faith. So this image of heaven is that it's all around us and yet just beyond us, right? So and we can't always perceive it rightly because of the limitations of broken human flesh and our mortal nature, and yet that reality is all around us. The Celtic Christians would talk about thin places. When they talked about thin places, they meant occasionally the veil is pulled back a little bit and we get a glimpse of the heavenly reality all around us. And I've known some Christians who have had some experiences where they've gotten a peek at a loved one, or a peek at God, or a peek at heaven. It's not enough to go write a book, I don't think, but it is enough to encourage one, to give one hope and to give one courage and faith. So heaven is up, it's also all around us. There's another physical metaphor that the Bible uses to speak about where heaven is. Psalm 121 says, I look unto the hills, I look into the horizon, from whence comes my help? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. And so another way of speaking about where heaven is it's just beyond the horizon. It's just beyond the edge of this world. C.S. Lewis makes a lot of this metaphor in his Chronicles of Narnia, that Narnia, his way of speaking about heaven in the book, in those 7 books for children, is just beyond the horizon. Aslan, the Christ figure, is the one who lives just beyond the horizon, just beyond this world, and yet not detached from this world, not indifferent to this world. So the first thing that we're affirming with Jesus, when we say Jesus ascended in heaven, which he did physically rise up until the disciples could no longer see him, the first thing that they learn from that is that Jesus will now take his place in heaven. The second thing that we learn is that all authority has been given to Jesus. So in Matthew 28, just before giving the Great Commission to his people, he tells his followers, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. All. I am ruler, I am Lord, I am regal over all of creation. And if you think about the vision of seeing Jesus raised up until, he just keeps floating up and up and up and up. If any of Jesus's followers had ever heard about or ever witnessed the coronation of a king, they may have seen this person be lifted up 5 feet off the ground, or to walk up a stage that's 10 feet off the ground, and this is a powerful symbol that they are regent over all the land. Well, Jesus doesn't go up 5 feet, he doesn't go up 10 feet, he doesn't go up 100 feet. He keeps rising and rising and rising and rising and rising and rising until his being lifted up is beyond the physical capacity of the human eye to see. This is a powerful, powerful teaching moment where Jesus is saying, I am king over everything. They need to know that because they're being sent out into a world where the rulers of this world don't always acknowledge that Jesus is king, and frankly, sometimes are terrible to those who do acknowledge that Jesus is king. And so sometimes it's going to seem like tyrannical governments and neighbors and popular opinion are what really run this world. Money runs this world. War runs this world. Power runs this world. And what the disciples need to know as they face and as we face all of these pressures and all of these signs that say, no, Jesus is not king. We need to look at Jesus, who's high and lifted up, who in his ascension is lifted higher than the eye can even perceive, because it reminds us that governments, armies, money, popular opinion, those things are not the ultimate ruler of this world. Jesus is. He is the ultimate king above all kings. I hope this has been helpful. Hope it's been interesting, and hope it helps you to understand and appreciate what we're saying when we say the creed.